Good afternoon, everybody. I'm your host, Simply C, and I am on the phone with activist Jeffrey Marsh. Hello, sir.
Hello, sir slash ma'am slash
Ooh, okay.
person.
All right.
Hi.
Hello, hello. And now I first discovered you actually on Twitter. You popped up on some of my news feed, and it was a really quick video, and in short, it said, "You are loved." And I was just so
Mm,
taken aback by that someone would even post something like that. I mean, you hear it all the time that you're loved, or you have this inner beauty about you, but to see somebody just kind of come out and say that, and not just say it directly to someone. It wasn't a post just to a certain person. It was a post to
mm.
everybody, and it was very encompassing, and it was
Actually,
beautiful.
actually, if I may, it was opposed
Yes.
to you.
Yes.
If you appreciated it, that's the reason I posted it.
All right, wonderful. And now you did do a TED Talk last year. Tell me kind of how that came about, and was it nerve-wracking? Was it exciting? Was it educational? What was that?
Well, Ted contacted me because of my book,
Hmm.
How to Be You.
Okay.
It was a big success, and
Hmm.
it's so wonderful that you mentioned that video because they're there in a nutshell, in that one sentence, in that one idea of that video and all the videos I post is my life's work, my
Hmm.
career. There is nothing wrong with you. You're okay how you are.
Hmm.
The things you were taught about yourself when you were a kid, about how, you should change and you're not acceptable, you're not lovable, all that stuff is just bunk. There's a way to move past all that stuff, and there's a way to learn to love yourself.
Hmm.
And so I wrote a book about it and about how to be yourself without shame.
Hmm.
And the TED folks were like, "Do you want to do? We're having, all of the summits that they put together
Hmm.
have a theme, and this particular theme was about daring to be yourself."
Oh,
And I
okay.
was like, "Oh well, that's yeah. I think I have some things to say on that subject."
Hmm.
And so we worked out what the talk would be, and ever since, which we can, of course, talk about more, ever
Hmm.
since the election, the dialogue has changed from simply accepting yourself for how you are
Hmm.
to how to use that as a step toward becoming an activist and changing the world for the better.
Hmm.
That's really what people want to talk about today, and
Right.
that's
Right.
what the TED Talk was about.
Yes, I've definitely noticed a change in uh, just a shift in what people are posting about on Facebook and Twitter and things like that, and just the world at large. There's a lot of activism going on right now. A lot of people taking a stand for really what they believe in, and it's not. It doesn't necessarily have to do with gang violence, although that is prominent as well. But it's people taking a stand. I mean, I had right
Hmm.
before the election happened this last year, a number of my friends up here from Duluth and Superior uh, hopped in a van and drove to the White House and stood out in the freezing cold with signs.
Wow.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
really there are a lot of heroes around,
Yes, yes. And I think a
and
lot more of them are coming out of the woodwork now.
oh yeah, well and I couldn't be happier.
Hmm.
It's it's such a wonderful time to be alive, and I know that a lot of people, where we started this conversation, looking at
Hmm.
your Twitter feed and all the things I tweet about kind of pop out because
Hmm.
not many people are posting positive things.
Right, right.
Even if they're activists, it can come from a very angry place. It can come from a
Yes.
very negative sort of energy.
Hmm.
And I really strive to maintain my assumption that people are inherently good
Hmm. Hmm.
in all of the activism that I do. Something that's important to me.
Good, good. There's
Yeah,
not enough belief in that, I
I
find.
agree. I agree.
I find, yes. There have been a number of times I've wanted to shut down my social media presence completely, just because there's
Hmm.
so much negativity. And I mean, there's a saying that negativity breeds negativity. where positivity will breed positivity. And I think right now in the world where we have these platforms at our fingertips for us to spit out our opinions or to share a news story or whatever it is in real
Mm-hmm.
time. We don't have to wait, for the newscaster to tell us what's going on in the world. We can find it right away. But also on the flip side of that, you have a lot of people that are able to spit out their opinions and, say how they're feeling, which is great. Don't get me wrong. But when a lot of it is just negative and, anti this, anti that, it gets to be kind of draining on the human psyche.
Oh my goodness, yeah, and depressing and
Yes.
upsetting and all
Mm-hmm.
of the stuff that goes with that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Right, right. And now, Jeffrey, let's kind of jump off this tangent and get into kind of your positivity stance. How did that come about? Now, I did pick up your book. I do have it, and I was reading it. And I really enjoy how you put in there the practicality, the use of positivity, and seeing yourself in a different light. But then you also kind of go into your story and
Hmm.
share how you learned these lessons, which I think is great. But yeah, let's jump into kind of the positivity. It doesn't sound like you always had this positive outlook on things.
Oh heck no.
Hmm.
When I was 24, I was bitter. Oh my goodness.
Hmm.
Um, and I think you really, well, I don't know about everybody, but I think it's often the case that you need to go to rock bottom of
Hmm.
bitterness, anger,
Hmm.
resentment in order to
Yes.
start building toward a better future for
Hmm.
yourself. And the
Hmm.
drastic times call for drastic measures.
True.
And so for me, again in my 20s, I the drastic measure that I took was going to a monastery and studying Buddhism.
Hmm.
And you're talking about taking a break from social media. That
Uh-huh.
is taking a break in the biggest way
Right.
possible.
Hmm.
To have time alone with your heart and with life and with the universe.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. So, what brought on jumping into Buddhism? I know, the Christians will say, "Well, I went, to a Christian camp," or,
Hmm.
what have you. Wiccans will say, "I went into the woods and spent time with nature." So, I guess what kind of drew you to the Buddhism side of things?
I was raised Lutheran,
Okay.
and my mom is a pastor, as a
Hmm.
matter of fact. And so there is a contemplative tradition already.
Hmm.
And although he's more of a Catholic guy, we do also revere St. Francis and that
Hmm.
sort of connection to nature.
Hmm.
And so it was always sort of in my personal biography and
Hmm.
woven throughout. But at the very top of the interview, when we were bantering and joking around,
Yes.
and I was saying I'm a sir and a ma'am and a
Hmm.
human, and I grew up with a sense that I was that my gender identity was something past what people were expecting of me.
Okay.
And I was treated in a specific way because of that.
Hmm.
Almost everyone I encountered tried to get me not to be myself,
Hmm.
not to be feminine mostly.
Hmm.
And that created a ton of self hate, self doubt, a ton of depression, a ton of anger, a ton
Hmm.
of this negativity we've been talking about.
Hmm.
And the pendulum eventually swung so far in that direction because of how I was treated by society, by my family, by pastors, by everybody,
Hmm.
school officials, that sort of thing, that I needed some sort of way out. And Buddhism happened to be my way out.
Hmm.
And what I loved about what she said is there are several ways out, right?
Hmm.
For a lot of us.
Yes. Yes. Hmm. Yes, I can kind of attest to what you're saying as well. My 20s were rocky and weird and uh,
Mm-hmm.
but also looking at it, I'm 30 now, but looking at it, it was also kind of beautiful at the same time. I did hit rock bottom at 22.
Yes. Yeah.
And I remember telling a therapist one time that when I'm 40, I'm not going to have a midlife crisis. Why? I'm having it at 20.
Because it's happening now. Yeah.
It's happening now.
Yeah.
But I did hit rock bottom, and it did take a lot. It took quite a long time and several different therapists for me to finally learn to accept myself for who I am
Mm-hmm.
and what I stand for, and, kind of bringing that positivity into my life. Now,
Well, for you,
thank you.
what was sort of the key ingredient to get to positivity?
I've finally learned. I finally learned it at 30. My key is kind of putting it out into the universe. The universe will listen. She's a good listener, and
Mm-hmm.
you attract what you put out. So for a very, very long time, I attracted doubters, haters, if I can call them that. I mean, I don't believe anybody has the power to really hate anyone. But yeah, doubters, people that weren't necessarily my friends, but I wanted them to be, and it was just a very kind of rocky time. And
Yeah.
now at 30, I put out positivity. I give people hugs all the time. And I'm definitely finding that these people are coming to me, and kind of that love is coming back, which is actually really nice.
Yeah, many times I feel like the love I put out
Mm-hmm.
is the same as the love that I receive.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it's not that it's coming back in the same way or that it's the same proportion or anything like that, but that they're actually not separate things.
Mm-hmm.
That when I post, I receive as much as I might be giving to someone,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Right, right.
So secret behind the scenes, that's also why I post, is to make myself feel better, right?
Right. Of course. It
Yeah.
it all starts with you, and then it can grow from there.
Hopefully people seem to like it
Mm-hmm.
so far.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And now, Jeffrey, we kind of touched a little bit on how you started on this journey. Um, you went into Buddhism and kind of ended up finding who you really were and accepting yourself for that. I guess what was kind of the next step into really launching yourself and launching this campaign, if I may call it that, into the wider world?
You may certainly call it that. I'm going to tell you a big secret that
Okay.
I've never said in an interview
Ooh.
before. Every year I sign a contract with life,
Okay.
and it's sort of just a little, fun exercise that I do, spiritual exercise that I do
Mm-hmm.
around New Year's
Okay.
that just helps me be clear about what I'm going to offer
Mm-hmm.
so that life can take it and run with it if life would like to do that.
Okay.
And it's things like, I want to help people feel better about themselves. I want
Mm-hmm.
to use my platform to spread good in the world. It's general things like
Mm-hmm.
that, but it's also specifics about how I want people to feel,
Mm-hmm.
what I want to do for humanity if I ever have the chance, on the broadest scale.
Uh-huh.
So, in relation to that, the next stuff that's coming up that is only sort of secret is a book. Second book is coming.
Okay.
And also, we're working on a TV show that's in the very beginning stages. So,
Oh, wow.
all of that is, we're set to have a very exciting
Mm-hmm.
2018.
Yes, that does sound exciting. 2018 is definitely turning out to be the good year for all of us. You're not the only person to tell me big things are happening in the next year, so
Gosh,
that's
I can feel it.
that's very
I,
exciting. That's
it
very
is time
exciting.
for a change for sure.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, I agree. I agree. And now, Jeffrey, let's get into your book, How to Be You. Um, uh, how did you kind of discover all these there are so many great lessons in this book, and I've just got to say, I spent money on therapists to learn these lessons. um, did these lessons kind of just come throughout life? Did you learn them by trial and error? Did you have like a mentor that kind of taught you these lessons?
Yes, yes, and yes. All
Okay.
of the
Mm-hmm.
above.
All right.
I was in a bookstore about 15 years ago in Philadelphia,
Okay.
and I looked across the way and I saw a book called There Is Nothing Wrong with You.
Mm-hmm.
And my the cover of my book as you may have noticed, is very kind of artsy, and it's got a handwritten font and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the same was true for this book that I was inspired by these 15 years ago.
Okay.
And I saw that book, and immediately my brain was like, oh, you're kidding. No, there's plenty that's wrong with me. Of course, this, and this is wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
But while my brain was doing that, my feet were already walking across the bookstore
Okay.
to get to that book. And I picked it up. I started reading it. I couldn't put it down. And it was written by a woman who ran a monastery in California.
Mm-hmm.
I went on a few retreats, started learning from her. That was eventually the monastery that I would go to live at for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And that spiritual direction of living as a Buddhist monk for a while taught me basically all of these lessons about how would Oprah say it? How to live your best life. That's what she would say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But that's really what it's about.
Wonderful. So a book started it all, and now your book is inspiring others to do the same and live the best life that they can.
Hopefully. And
Yes.
and in a way, also something I don't often talk about in interviews is I hopefully, fingers crossed, my book is this kind of bridge between sort of esoteric, weird to a lot of people, Buddhism, right, religious, and quote unquote everyday life.
Right.
That's why social media is so important to me. I want to be able to reach people who are not monks, who are not deeply religious, if that's, not where they are. I want to act as a bridge to get some of those valuable things out there.
Right, of course. And here's my stance on religion. I am what's called an ominist. It means I believe what you believe. So I believe that there's a place for all religions in the world, and that they all lead to the same kind of collective being or consciousness, if you will. But
certainly.
If you look at the base of all religions, it's love and respect. And
I was going to say, love your neighbor as yourself.
Exactly.
I mean, that's a big one for almost all of them. Yeah.
Right. And I just think throughout time and throughout the different waves of people and what they believe, they've kind of gotten away from that. Although I am finding kind of in our generation that we're, not all of us, mind you, I don't want to lump everyone together because not everybody feels the same, but in our generation, there seems to be a baseline of that, of kind of love and respect. And whether that comes from the fact that we're the overeducated generation or, what have you, you can throw any label you want on it. But yeah, there's definitely kind of a baseline of, oh, okay, man, you got a bunch of tattoos and you want to go smoke some dope. All right, that's cool, leave me at the bar or, whatever it is. So, yeah, that's what I've noticed anyway.
I mean, just hearing the way that you framed that, it was so brilliantly said. It makes me think of LGBTQ people are so often treated poorly by whatever religion they grow up in. They don't feel their church community, if it happens to be a church, is welcoming to them. And you definitely go through a period, or I've seen many, many, many people who are LGBTQ that throw the baby out with the bathwater and they want to move so far away from religion that their spirituality gets thrown out as well.
Right.
And so, a lot, just the way you said that was so wonderful. And a lot of the work that I do is hoping to bring that spirituality back for people.
Right, of course. And now you kind of alluded to that you've got a TV show coming up. You're launching a second book. Do you have kind of like a time frame people can look forward to those things?
Both of those. It's so funny because I just love things and I want them to happen right away when I'm excited. But both of those industries are slow industries. So hopefully, my goodness, book number 2 will probably be published in 2019.
Okay.
And the show will probably premiere then.
Okay.
Too.
All right.
So that's about as specific as I can get.
Okay.
At this point.
Can you give us any information or a synopsis of either of those?
Oh, you're such a good interviewer. You're going right for the jugular. Um, the second book actually is based on the TED Talk, and
Okay.
it's specifically about, I will be profiling activists to find out how they sustain their activism.
Mm-hmm.
When times get tough, when things are difficult, what keeps you going?
Mm-hmm.
And the TV show, I'm trying to think of what I'm allowed to say or not.
Oh, right.
We're just between friends, right? You can keep a secret.
Oh, yeah.
My hope is to visit people around America who
Okay.
feel the same as me, who feel differently, who
Mm-hmm.
get what I'm trying to do, who don't, but bridge some of the gaps between red states and blue states, you could say.
Okay. All right. So let's do a really quick comparison here. This
Yeah.
is kind of launching into left field a little bit, but just so people can kind of understand, the band 30 Seconds to Mars released a video for their music. The song is called Walk on Water, and they had people submit videos to them. So over
Mm.
1,000 people, well over thousands of people submitted videos, and they put it together, and it was a beautiful video about America as a whole, about the all the way from the dirt poor working class to, I'll call them the bourgeoisie, even though we're not in France, but
Mm-hmm.
and it was just beautifully kind of sliced together, and it showed America life as a whole, as people. So is that kind of what you're hoping to get at with this TV show, is kind of to show people and even what they think or what they do in a daily basis?
Yes, and
Mm-hmm.
as you might have guessed, I get emails, tweets from all kinds of people,
Mm.
of all kinds of backgrounds,
Right, right.
political ideologies and religious backgrounds
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
color, shapes, and ages, and every kind of. I don't know if you knew this, but you can go on Twitter and look at your demographics, and mine are all over the place,
Oh,
all over
okay.
the world actually, but all
Good.
over,
Mm-hmm.
you know, gender identities and yes, all the categories I mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's because there's a lot more we have in common than don't.
Mm.
There's a lot more that unites us than divides us,
Mm-hmm.
and that's really what I want to get at and show.
Right, right. Mm-hmm. And now, Jeffrey, since we've touched on Twitter so much, is that the platform that you got started on? Was Twitter, or did you try out Facebook, or let's even go back even further, MySpace?
Friendster. Um, I had the most prominence. I have quite a lot of followers on YouTube, and I like
Mm-hmm.
YouTube,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
but I'm not really a YouTuber. I
Mm-hmm.
was most famous and really launched my career on a platform called Vine, if you remember
Ah,
Vine.
yes, I do. Yes, I do. It didn't last very
Six
long, did it?
second videos, yeah. And since the videos were 6 seconds, it was just long enough for me to say, "You're beautiful just how you are,"
Mm-hmm.
in a video, and they really people seem to love them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I started out.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. And now, you said that you get emails and tweets daily and things like that. Do you try to respond to all of them? Are there some that are just too deep for you to respond? I mean, how do you kind of filter that?
Well, not to sound too hoity-toity or fancy, but I have people for that
Yes.
because,
Hi, Julian.
um, yes, exactly. Because I also get a lot of hate,
Mm.
and the
Mm-hmm.
mission that I'm doing and where I need to focus my attention, I
Mm-hmm.
actually can't be in the trenches in that way, dealing with the hate that comes into the inbox.
Mm-hmm.
So I have someone who is not me, who wouldn't take the hate personally,
Right,
going through
right.
all of that stuff. And if someone sends me a wonderful, personal, "You changed my life, you saved my life,
Mm-hmm.
thank you for what you're doing" email, that definitely gets through
Hmm.
to me. That
Right.
gets past the filter and gets to me.
Mm-hmm.
Is
Hmm.
that what you mean?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah.
answering that one. Um,
And I do right back. I do
mhm.
respond
All
to those.
right. Wonderful. Wonderful. And I wasn't going to go into it, but since you brought it up, that people will get hate mail or hate Facebook or hate tweets or whatever it is. And like you had said, you don't have the energy to deal with that. Um, but I guess, what kind of shift do you have to have in yourself in order to kind of handle those different situations? I know with me personally, and when I was receiving, not necessarily hate, but I'll put it in the light of disappointing Facebook messages. Um, I just
That is very
yes, I
diplomatically said. Yes.
yeah, I had to do the bare minimum and say, you know, thank you for reaching out, but bottom line, this is none of your business. Um, I'm sorry,
Hmm.
but I refuse to talk about this. What you're asking happened 2-3 years ago. It's not for you to judge who I am and what I do in my personal life, or even in my public life as well. Um,
Yes.
and because I wasn't fueling that fire, that interaction between these people, they eventually kind of just fizzled out and left. Do you find that
Hmm.
that's kind of what these people are looking for? Not to put them in the category of those people, but that kind of, they need. It's almost like they need melodrama in their life, and they look for anyone or everyone to kind of give it to them. Do you kind of find that that's kind of where that hate mail kind of comes from, or just people spitting out
Sure.
their
Well, I mean,
opinions?
there's a variety
Mm-hmm.
of hate
Mm-hmm.
that comes at one when one is doing the work that I do,
Right, right.
and that's definitely part of it. There's
Mm-hmm.
back in the days of Vine when I first rose to prominence,
Okay.
there was that's basically the Wild West of the internet. Anyone can comment anything.
Right.
And if you are familiar at all with internet comment sections, it was absolutely the worst stuff you have ever heard,
Oh.
telling me to burn myself to death and
Ugh.
just the
Mm-hmm.
most intense stuff that
Mm-hmm.
I actually had one person over several comments tell me how he was going to shoot me, how
No.
he was going to find me in New York, what kind of gun he was going to use, where the bullet would enter my body, how
Mm-hmm.
good he'd feel when I was shot, stuff like that.
Wow.
So yes, it does basically come down to any attention is good attention,
Mm-hmm.
even if they're getting hate back, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Right. Right.
And so the only way that I have seen to deal with them is to not even be in the universe that they're creating, if that makes sense. Not even
Mm-hmm.
engage,
Mm-hmm.
be doing the work that I'm doing and spreading the goodness that I want to spread. And
Mm-hmm.
the haters are irrelevant to that.
Right, right. Uh, like we were saying earlier, positivity breeds positivity, and negativity breeds negativity, and misery loves company. I mean, I'm being very
Yes.
cliche right now, but there is a lot of truth to those statements.
Well,
Um,
cliches are cliches for a reason. And the one thing that I would add to that whole discussion
mhm,
is also just a reminder that if you're going to follow your heart,
mhm,
if I can say it in a very poetic way,
mhm,
you, you people are going to hate you for it.
mhm, mhm,
I don't have a hero,
mhm,
a spiritual hero,
uh-huh.
um, or a hero in any realm that is doing what they want to do with their life that doesn't have haters. So
Right, right.
you can put out as much positivity as you want, and you won't avoid hate entirely
Mhm.
because humanity's not in that place yet.
Right,
But
yes.
we can certainly do our best, huh?
Yes, yes. I think it's time for all the positive people to band together and maybe build a utopia.
2018, the
All
year of
right.
utopia.
Ooh, all right. But we'd have to pick a state, though, and I just don't know.
Y'all want to come to New York? upstate is pretty big. There's room.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll start a farm.
Yes, I think that would be nice.
Oh, that would be amazing, and it would also draw a lot of attention too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Well, Jeffrey, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to me and everyone else this afternoon. I look forward to your new book and the TV show that you've got coming out, and kind of seeing you on the internet as well.
Yes, I'll be in your feed
All
as the
right.
bright spot.
All right. Wonderful. Wonderful. Anything else you'd like to touch on that for the end of the interview here?
Nah,
No?
just find me on the internet,
Okay.
please.
Yes.
Let's connect.
Mhm. All right. Wonderful. And you can find Jeffrey Marsh on Twitter. I don't know if you have a Facebook. I haven't looked.
I do.
You do? Okay. All right.
Yes,
You can also.
Facebook.com/Jeffrey Marsh official, if I'm
Okay.
remembering correctly. But if you just look for Jeffrey Marsh, Jeffrey Marsh, you'll find me.
All right. And Jeffrey, people can pick up your book on Amazon, at Barnes & Noble, and other places as well. And it is titled How to Be You.
That is correct.
All
It's
right.
a love letter. Go read it.
It is. It is a love letter that's written in 2 beautiful sections. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jeffrey, and have a wonderful day. Say hi to Julian for me as well.
I will. Thank
All
you
right.
so much.
Yes, of course.
Bye-bye.
Have a great day.